Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are talking about pattern interruption and how changing your energy and changing the energy around you can be helpful for you to feel unstuck and feel like you have momentum and to feel like you are inspired. Now, let's think about a time where you've just felt like you've been stuck in a rut. And ruts happen. They can happen within your work, they can happen within your social field, they can happen within your day-to-day routine. And what happens is you get sucked into doing the same thing over and over and over again because we know that routine is helpful. We can thrive off of routine. And sometimes what we forget is that when we thrive off routine, we get into a point where the routine is just autopilot and it doesn't actually have meaning for us anymore, which means we either A, need to switch things up and go into something completely different and morph our routine, or B, switch things up and then go back into our routine. And I think the thing that's flashing in my head as an example to talk to you about is when we talk about a plateau. So you've probably heard this word before in the realm of the fitness industry, and we talk about this idea of you're doing the same thing. Your body is having these wow factors. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what is she putting me through? Like all this exercise that I haven't been doing before. And because our bodies love homeostasis, we know that our bodies are at some point going to just catch up with what we're doing and they're going to adjust. Our body is going to say, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see you're doing this at this time and I see you doing that at that time. And oh, we're not eating that much anymore. Okay, so I'm going to conserve some energy here and I'm going to do some stuff over here. And that's our body working for us and also working against us. And the reason why it's working against us sometimes is because we don't know sometimes when to interrupt and change and get out of the plateau. And it can become pretty hard to predict because in the end, if we're predicting it, it's still a routine and there's a predictable routine around it. There are ways that we can outsmart our own body and we can always have it working for us. Now, I'm sure that if you're not familiar with the fitness realm and you haven't heard that word of plateau before, then maybe you've seen it and heard about it in different ways. So let's talk about my number one topic, dance, and think about a plateau here. So you're coming to the studio, you're working hard, you're dancing, and you hit a dance plateau. Well, what does a dance plateau look like? It might look like a battle with your comfort zone. And we've talked about the comfort zone before. We've talked about the sweet spot, the survival zone. And we know that when we first start something, we're nervous, we're scared, we're going to step out of our comfort zone. And that takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. And it feels like a lot for our bodies to handle. And as we're adjusting, so you're this new dancer, you're coming in, you're learning all these things and you're adjusting, which means you're getting better at doing what was hard. And when we do that, we think like, oh, great, I'm doing these great things and I am succeeding. And sometimes what we forget is, where's the challenge at? Where's the moment that I can step out of my comfort zone again and have my body catch up with me? And when I think about this, I think about my students. I think about the fact that I think I told you this before, I love to challenge them no matter what. I love to just know where they're at in a class and then be like, all right, we're going to do this. Because if I can continually keep them challenged, then I'm continually challenging their threshold of receiving difficulty and receiving the benefits that happen from challenging yourself. And what happens in this case is we probably don't see that many plateaus because it's not that plateaus are bad, but they are what they are. They're not moving you forward. They're not bringing you to a new area or a new level. So it's important for us to change, to interrupt our pattern or to interrupt our routine so that we can receive the challenge, so that we can step out of the comfort zone and then have our body adjust and catch up with us. Because the body's going to be like, whoa, what are you doing there? And we're going to be like, this is what I'm doing. Come on, catch up to me. Let's go. And then the body will be like, okay. And going back to that idea of fitness and health, when we are on a diet and we are depriving our body of calories, our body might first go into starvation preservation mode. And it might be like, hold it. Everyone hold it. if there was like a, conductor in the body, it's going to be like, everyone conserve calories, everyone save fat. And it's our job to change things up. And maybe, I know you've heard of a cheat day, but in the fitness world, we call that a refeed day. And the refeed day is really a shock to the system. It's a shock to the plateau. And it's saying, just when you thought we were doing this, actually, we're doing this. So in dance, this could be like, just when you thought that the style that we're working on is this, I want you to also know this style and get used to it. And what this does is it interrupts our daily life, our daily pattern, our daily routine, and it allows us to have more growth. And growth is usually aligned with our goals. So in a way, breaking a plateau or breaking a pattern is helping you stay on the road to your goals. So you can do pattern interruption in so many different ways. Like, let's just list a couple just so that you can see how it can be very simple. So one can be go to work on a different route. One could be do something on a Tuesday that you never do on a Tuesday just because. Another one could be go on a trip. See what happens if you just take a random trip. Another one, saying yes when you normally say no. And an obvious one is doing movement when you don't really feel like doing movement. So I know you've done this before where maybe not in a while, but do you remember being like in elementary school, like we would be doing something and then all of a sudden they would be like, all right, everybody stand up and stretch. And then we would do it and we would like laugh. Maybe we would send signals to friends and then we would like sit down and we would somehow in that quick minute feel rejuvenated. And that's because we have energy. So have you ever walked into a room and you've just like felt energy? The reason why I really want to talk to you about this, the reason why I think energy is so important to discuss is because it's not just energy. Oh, her energy. It's not something that's fake. This is a real thing that's backed by science. So I have here one of my favorite books. This is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've read it and I keep referencing it because I find it so fascinating that these kind of metaphysical things are so much backed by science that there's a real reason why we can be more aware of our energy, because the energy that we're carrying with us throughout a routine is going to also predict our future. So let's just draw it out real quick. So we are doing these things that we do every day. We're going through it. We feel good about it because we've figured out how we can tackle it. We know that we can have success with it because we plotted it out. Our body got used to it, we adjusted, and now it's just part of our behavior. So if you were to take a clip of your behavior from, let's say, today and tomorrow, and if you continue with your routine, it's likely that if you were to take that clip of your routine and put it in the future, you would probably not have that much of a blip in your schedule because it'd be like so similar to what you used to do that future you would be like, yeah, that's what I do on Tuesdays. And what's funny is pattern interruption can change that. Energy can change that. And when you pattern interrupt, you're changing energy, which means you're changing frequency, which means you get to rewrite your future. How cool and how exciting to know that what is wired in your brain can be rewired. It's science, and here's where it goes. So on page 33, I like to say the page numbers because if you have the book, which I know some of you are probably going to buy this tonight, then you're going to want to follow along. When we think of a thought, those networks of neurons that fire in our brain create electrical charges. When those thoughts also cause a chemical reaction that results in a feeling or an emotion, as well as when a familiar feeling or emotion is driving our thoughts, those feelings create magnetic charges. They merge with the thoughts that create the electric charges to produce a specific electromagnetic field equal to your state of being. Think of emotions as energy in motion. The frequencies of creative, elevated emotions like love, joy, and gratitude are much higher than the emotions of stress, such as fear and anger, because they carry different levels of conscious intent and energy. And we can see in the book, so on page 34, if you have the book, you can see that the waves are different. And there's tinier, shorter frequencies for the elevated emotions, when you're feeling bliss and when you're feeling freedom, when you're feeling love and when you're feeling joy, versus when you're in your survival element. Those waves are almost like not wavy at all. And they're just kind of like almost straight lines. And that's when you're in pain or where you're feeling like you're the victim. So it makes so much sense because all energy is frequency. And all frequency carries information. So when we get stuck, where do you think those frequencies are? At the top of this diagram, you would see the frequencies are like they're up and down, like really short together and like really up and down. And then as it goes down into like those survival emotions, like things are slower. So in your routine, in your day-to-day, your waves go from the beginning of your routine, when you start the routine for the first time, they go from being to wow. You can hear the lameness in the sound that I just made, because that's, to me, like if I had to make a sound of the frequencies that I just saw visually in this book, that's what they would sound like to me. I mean, I don't know. They probably do sound like that, to be honest, because we can hear frequencies, and we can actually go to YouTube right now and type in frequencies. I mean, that's actually a beautiful strategy too. You could go into YouTube right now and select a certain number of hertz, and that's a frequency that you can listen to make your day more productive or make yourself more relaxed. And in fact, another one of my faves, Alana Fairchild, this is one of my favorite oracles. It's called the White Light Oracle. And it actually has frequencies lined up with some of the cards, not all of them, that you can listen to, and you can draw things into your life with these frequencies. And I actually tested these frequencies in my class one time. We have a class called Full Circle, and beautiful class. If you're in Rhode Island, come take it. We have it 4 times a year. And we tested out these frequencies because I was honestly curious and played 3 different ones. And like my students had actual like physical reactions when they heard these frequencies. And it could be like, yes, maybe like their ears and stuff, but it also could be in the state of mind that they were in at that moment, where one frequency could completely stress them out and the other frequency could completely relax them. So if we have control of our frequencies, our energy essentially, then why wouldn't we take advantage of that? So now that you have a little bit more basis for why we would pattern interrupt, let's talk a little bit more about pattern interruption and how we can include that into our day. So I'm sure you've heard in my podcast episode on Become a Better Dancer Faster, I talked about the difference between a left side learner and a right side learner. And while it is so valuable to know what kind of learner you are, it's also so important to know when to switch it up. So a great opportunity for you to switch it up and have an interruption and change your energy is to go to the other side of the room. Your brain will be tracking differently. The way you be learning will be tracking differently. The energy around you with the people that are standing next to you are going to be different. So therefore, everything will be different. It's also not that it's like a good different or a bad different. It's just that it is different. And we get to accept different. Oftentimes, I have my students improv after our choreo. A great thing that I could do for them is encourage them to improv a little more before the choreo. And in fact, I think I might do that tonight. And it's going to allow them to just be a little bit thrown off. Like, if you're thinking, oh, wow, that would like really throw me off, good. That's taking you out of your comfort zone. And we know that when we step out of our comfort zone, when we step out of the mundane, we grow, we get better, we interrupt, we change our energy, we change our frequency, therefore we change our future. I love that all my students love to dance. And what I love most about my students is they all want to grow, because I don't think they would have found me if they weren't ready for growth. And doing these little things, it can feel scary. And it can feel a little like, oh my gosh, good. That means we're on the right track, because when we know that we are on the right track, we know that we're on our sweet spot. And our sweet spot tells us you're almost there. You're edging on something great. I can remember sometimes when I was teaching and the energy felt kind of weird in the room. And, you know, sometimes I dissect this a lot. And what I've learned is that when people are nervous and people are insecure, they can come off with an energy that is kind of something that you don't really want to be around. So note to you, if this is resonating with you now and you're like, oh, that's probably me, you get to change that. I'm not telling you to change that, but you get to if you want to, and you're going to see what comes in. Because something else that is so fun about energy is energy can attract energy, which means, and this is where the law of attraction comes in, you can attract more things that you like in your life just by being what you like in your life. And as someone who has gotten permission to challenge my students, I get to make the pattern interruption for them. And what I would really love is that they learn to do it on their own and they take risks in their lives to do so. And I think that's what a great teacher is it's kind of like paving and showing the way, saying, hey, this is a possibility and you can do it. And here's the nudge. And I love it too. Like when my students, they recognize it and they're like, oh yeah, okay, thank you for that. Because usually what's going to happen is they're not going to know they can handle it first. I'd love to change that, obviously. But I think it's very common for a teacher or a mentor to know the capabilities of their students before the student does it. Have you ever received advice from someone and when they're saying it to you, they're like, yeah, just do this and this and this and this. And you're like, okay, if only it was that easy. Well, it sounds so easy because they're detached from it and they're not going to do the work to do it. So really, it is just talking. It's just a bunch of words. And for us to take that advice, let's say that it's warranted and we want to follow through with it, it's harder because we're lacking the trust that it's definitely going to work out because of the magic 4-letter word that we carry with us all the time, fear. And when we have fear, we have resistance. And when we have resistance, we don't make our moves as fast as we can. That's why when we learn to walk with fear, we're actually doing a great thing to ourselves because we're allowing ourselves to make mistakes faster, which means we're growing faster, which means where I could be in like 3 months right now, I could potentially be in a month and a half if I just decided that fear was fine to come on the road with me and I don't give a F about it. So I'm demonstrating this idea of, hey, you can interrupt this pattern and you can trust it and it can be something that you feel fear with as you do it. There's that word and again, and you can still do it and you can still have results. And what happens from accepting the interruption and doing something different, you get to realize things that you didn't know you liked. You get to see blind spots in your training. Maybe when you flip to the other side of the room, you're like, wow, I want to sharpen this skill. Or maybe you try a different style and that's telling you wow, your footwork needs some work. And now, because feedback is information, now we can do something about it. And now we can get better at those things. And just that idea of feeling fresh, even that word just feels fresh. It's like this reawakening. It's allowing you to fall in love again with dance. It's allowing you to feel those butterflies in your stomach and have those questions in your head oh my God, I hope I can do this. I'm a little nervous. Those are all things that you get to feel when you're in your sweet spot. So today, I want you to still recognize that routines are very helpful. We can thrive in routines. And also, we thrive when we can have an interruption in our routine and get back to our routine. Or have the interruption in our routine and then realize, hey, guess what? I'm outgrowing this routine. And now I get to make a better routine that suits me now. It's kind of like that idea of outgrowing your shoes that we talked about. Those shoes worked for you and now you need bigger ones. That routine worked for you. It got you here. Now what's going to get you there? And it's funny too, because if you're someone who is routine oriented, AKA my earth signs, AKA also Aries, you're going to love a routine. You're going to love structure. And you're also going to feel weird when change happens. Once change happens, it's throwing us out of our routine and it's telling us, you don't know anything. And that's the unknown. And some people don't handle the unknown that well. And what that means is it's just an opportunity. We get to play with it. The unknown? Okay, cool. How can I reframe to like the unknown because I know the unknown is going to get me where I want to go? How can that pattern interruption, which leads me to something that I didn't even know I liked, how can I now incorporate that into my routine and become this version of me that I'm becoming now? Because sometimes we can depend on the things that served us and they're not serving anymore. So it's funny because, like, going back to the shoes, just because I think it's just so easy to think about. There are friends of mine that have kids and they have said, oh, so-and-so went through a growth spurt and we had to get 3 different sizes of shoes within a span of 6 months. You can have the opportunity to change your routine 3 times within a 6-month period. And then maybe that third routine is going to serve you for a whole entire year. There's no real true math equation with it. It's more about how you're adapting in the routine and how you are still serving yourself. So it's not that we need to start over. It's just we get to have a different entry point. So the next time that you are thinking about, wow, everything feels pretty good, everything feels pretty easy, everything feels pretty still, it might be time for a pattern interruption. And this can come in the year, in the month, in the week, in the day, in the hour. And you can invite these pattern interruptions in just by switching up one thing in your life. Just one thing. So I invite you this week to try and think of something that you can incorporate into your routine. So now I'm asking you to pattern interrupt and make it a point to pattern interrupt on a routinely basis. So that's two asks. I think you can handle it. So 1, think of something that you can do that's going to interrupt your pattern. And 2, put it somewhere in your calendar, put it in your routine to schedule the interruption. Because if we go back to the fitness and the nutrition, we know when the refeed day is, we know when the cheat day is. So it doesn't have to be a spontaneous pattern interruption, although that'll work too. It's a thoughtful approach to interrupting the routine. So when I was doing this, I would choose Sundays because Sundays was like the easiest day and the most fun day to play around with different meals. And that would be what I planned on interrupting my diet plan. And actually, I also remember the next 2 days just having such great results. It's like your body was like, hey, thank you for the extra calories. Like, I needed that. That felt good. And it allows you to keep going in your routine. So don't associate pattern interruption with spontaneity because you can very much plan this. And I hope that you do. And I hope that when you do, your energy is revitalized and that you feel a little less stuck, that you feel a little more motivated and a little bit more inspired. If this was helpful for you, I would love to ask you for a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.